Hey guys, this is Dart. I know Cyan was asking for a quick kind of tutorial on how to actually take your textures from Substance Painter and actually put them in game. Like maybe if you just want to see how it looked in game before you submitted your armor concept and everything like that. And remember, you do still have to fill out an official template and everything like that. You can't just take your text or your Substance Painter project and just submit that or anything like that. They do have to be on those official templates. So here is just my work in progress armor. I'm going to be using that as an example. And I just did a quick color on the helmet just to kind of show there's a difference in game and everything. Make sure all those textures are working. So first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be exporting these textures. We're going to be taking them from Substance and just bringing them out as just normal texture files. Or normal images, I mean. The way we're going to do that is we're going to go up here to the top left. We're going to hit File, Export Textures. That's going to bring up this menu here. A little bit quicker way to do that is holding Control, Shift, and E, and that'll bring up the same menu here. Now, what I like to do is I like to change the padding from Dilation Infinite to Dilation plus Default Background Color. Now, that kind of just sounds like jargon, and it is, but basically, instead of making the textures look all stretched out wherever there's not like an actual like color or anything like that, instead just makes it black. Makes it a little bit easier if you're going to be doing like further editing and like Photoshop or anything like that. Okay. Okay. And then over on this left side here is everything from the armor itself. So like all of the vest, the helmets, everything like that. I'm going to only select the ones that are relevant to this. So that being the upper and lower halves of the uniform because they're split into two parts, and then the engineer helmet. Okay, you can just select and unselect them just like that. And another thing on this here is the output maps. You can unselect everything but the diffuse one right up here. The diffuse one is basically like the main colors and everything like that, and that's going to be the main one exporting because everything else like that is already handled for you. Main thing you just need is the colors. Okay, so then once you have all that changed, you can see all these, it's just the diffuse ones. Okay, and then you can go ahead and save settings. It's going to close this menu, but you can just reopen it. Okay, and then you're going to hit export. Okay, and then once that's all done for you, you can go ahead and hit this open output directory button, and that go ahead and see our nice and beautiful textures right there. Now, I'm going to move these from a different folder, from the export folder, to just this temporary folder in my C drive here. Okay, and the next step is going to be converting them into a way that Arma can actually read. And the way we're going to be doing that is with the Arma 3 tools. The Arma 3 tools is a basically collection of software created by Bohemia that you can use for modding and has some special kind of stuff in there. So once you can go ahead and install that, it should only take like a couple of minutes or so. It's not super huge. You can go ahead and not open Arma, but instead open the Arma 3 tools. Okay, and that's going to open up this menu here. If you launch it from Steam, it's going to bring up a little option. It's like, oh, which one do you want to play? You can just go ahead and select like the Arma 3 tools. It's going to be the very top option. It's going to bring you the same menu here. Okay. And now there's really only going to be 2 of these that are going to be relevant to us. Maybe 3 if you decide to publish something to the workshop. And that's going to be the image to PAA. This is going to convert our normal PNG files to an actual Arma texture. So we just go ahead and click to open that. You can go ahead and see this. Okay. And as you can see, there's no files here right now because we haven't added any. But you can go ahead and click this add as source directory. And I'm not going to click it just because it'll reveal my actual name and everything like that, and that's the whole issue. So we're just going to leave it like that, but it's already set up to open that temp folder. Now for the destination directory, you can go ahead and just click it. It's going to ask you to just choose a spot where you want the exported textures to be. Now, a couple notes about these. Neither the source directory or destination directory, they can't be like your desktop, your downloads, anything like that because Windows is Windows. They also can't be the same folder. They have to be different. The desktop and everything like that, it's actually just for the source one. I misspoke. But they can't be the same folder is the main thing. Otherwise, you're going to run into a bunch of errors where it's like it can't move the files because it's trying to move it to the same place. Because Arma is Arma. Okay, and now we can go ahead and see all of those texture files in there showing up. And then we're just going to hit this process files button. It's only going to take like a second or two because we only have 3 files. Just go back in there. You can see it processing. And there we go. 3 files converted successfully. Now you can see they're all green and everything, which means this worked properly. So we can go ahead and close this because we won't be needing it anymore. And also close Steam. There's the Arma launcher. And we're going to be going, here's our temp files. We can go back to our downloads. And we can ignore those ones from previous attempt. Okay. And here are those new 3 texture files right here for us. Alright, sorry about that. I had a little bit of a cut. I ended up going on to the next part of this, but I felt that it needed to be redone to kind of fix some things. The only changes that I've made is that you'll notice that this now has a different name to fix kind of an issue later, and these 3 texture files which we had just made, I renamed just to make them more fitting. So we have Dart Engineer, Helmet, Dart Uniform Upper, Dart Uniform Lower. So that's been the only changes so far. Okay, so you may see this Wolfpack armor test. This file will also be included in the description. It's basically just a quick way to start setting up your mod. That way you don't have to fiddle with any of the extra stuff here. Okay, so go ahead and close that. Do right click, and then I personally have 7-zip, so I can just extract to WP armor test. Okay, and now basically this is a mod already set up for you. So I'm going to go ahead and Control X to cut this, and I'm going to go to my Arma 3 folder here, and I'm going to go to local mods, which is a folder I have set up. Delete the old one, ignore you, pretend you didn't see that, and I'm going to paste that in right here. Okay. This can be anywhere on your computer, but we are going to be adding this as a local mod, so I prefer to just keep them all together here. Okay, and then I also do a lot of programming, so I have some extra software. But any text editor will do. You can use just like the default Windows Notepad, but I'm going to be using Visual Studio for Code for this, as it's the main kind of IDE I use. So, and I can also just right click and open this folder in code. Okay, drag this onto the right screen here. Now, when either you open up this folder or open VS Code like I am, you will see 4 different files here. There's mod.cpp, default configs.cpp, config.cpp, and CfgPatches.hpp. These are all Arma 3 mod files, and I can go ahead and tell you what each one means here. So at the very top of this config.cpp, this is going to be your main kind of spot where you're going to be setting up like the helmets, the uniforms, all that kind of stuff here. At the very top, you'll see this include CfgPatches.hpp. Basically, when we actually convert this into a mod, it's just going to put these files all together, all as one. But it lets us keep everything a little bit more organized and clean that way by having them as separate files. Now, I do have some comments in here. It's like this is where you'll find most of your armors, helmets, uniforms, etc., all like that. And down here we have the base classes. This mainly gives us the models for the things we're going to be applying textures to. So like you'd see like the phase 2 helmet, the engineer, airborne, etc., etc. But basically this will save us writing thousands of lines of code when we're really only changing a few things. Okay, same thing for the CFG vehicles. This is where we're going to be setting up our units as to have or to apply textures to a uniform in Arma, you have to have a unit associated with it, which is why in our customs in our mod, you'll see a bunch of people who all have custom uniforms. That's why they have their own unit. All right. If we go ahead and over to this CfgPatches file here, you can see this class WP armor test. You can see the author is you. Required version. This is the required version of Arma. You can set this to 1. Some people do 0.1. Doesn't really matter as long as it's less than whatever current version of Arma it is. I think it's like 3. So as long as it's like roughly less than 3, it'll work. Okay, and now here are all of the required add-ons. This is basically like everything that you're going to be using these base classes from. Okay? So like there's this LS Armor Blue for, and I also have what all that we use is included from it. So like you can see the Phase 2 helmet, the engineer helmet, the airborne helmet, the pilot helmet, etc., etc. There also is some extra stuff that most people won't need, but I wanted to be all kind of encompassing, so it's all in there for you, so you don't have to go searching for them. It's like the officer vest, the rangefinder, the normal kind of visor NVGs and stuff like that. Alright, but now we're going to be moving on to setting up our helmets, our uniform, and the unit that we're going to be using to set those uniforms. And we'll come back to this units and weapons section here in a second. Now, if we go ahead and take a look at this default configs.cpp, go ahead and open that right over here on this side. This has basically all of the base configs that you guys will need, so you guys can just copy and paste whatever it is you're doing. Now, as you can see, there is no include default configs, so this won't be present in the mod itself, which is a good thing because this would cause a lot of errors, or it wouldn't be loaded at all. Okay. So my texture here is an engineer one. So we're going to go ahead and grab the engineer one, and we're going to copy this and paste it right into our CFG weapons class. Okay, and then next we're going to take the textures from our downloads folder where we exported them. We're going to cut this, we're going to put it in that textures folder. Remember, I renamed these, rename to whatever fits best for you. So I just have like my name and an engineer helmet, uniform upper, uniform lower, stuff like that. All right, go ahead and close that because we're done with that for now. And now we're going to be heading back to the code itself. So let's go ahead and make this a little bigger. So models in Arma and a lot of other cases are set up into these selections. So that's what this hidden selections is. And this is where we're applying the textures. So you can see the engineer helmet is split into the main helmet, the headlamp, and then the visor. But we'll go ahead and get to that in a second. First up, there's this class WP helmet underscore X, which is inheriting, which means it's getting most of its information from this LSGAR engineer helmet. Okay. Then we have the display name and then the textures there. This part right here, before the colon, is the class name of the thing we're defining. So I'm going to want to go ahead and change this X to Dart because it's going to be for my helmet. And we can change this to just Dart's engineer helmet. Now, if we were to just put this into a mod right now, it would just have the normal textures from LS. But we're going to go ahead and apply our own. Now, LS Code, or Visual Studio Code, has this handy feature where you can just right-click on a file and then copy the relative path, so meaning from this folder up here down to wherever it is. So we'll just select the main helmet texture from here, press Ctrl V to paste that, and it didn't grab the armor test, so instead we're going to go ahead and grab that straight from CfgPatches, Wolfpack armor test. We're going to put it right at the start and then a backslash. Now, this part right here is going to depend on whatever you change this to, or if you just leave it as WP armor test, you're just going to leave it just like that. This part up here is called the add-on prefix. So it's going to be what all of like your file paths and everything like that start with, because it's the prefix for the mod. Now, because VS Code didn't automatically detect it, we're going to have to set it manually later, but it's a really simple step. So there's our helmet done. We changed the name in like the arsenal, and then we've applied our custom helmet texture. So that's done. Next, we're going to be moving on to the uniform. So if you go back to this default configs, scrolling down, there's this uniform section. So we'll copy this, paste it there, tab it in just so it looks all nice. Same premise. This is the class name. It's inheriting from this ls scar phase 2 uniform and all that stuff. So we're going to be changing the X to a dart. We're going to change this to just darts armor. But it also has this class item info, uniform model, all this stuff here. You can ignore most of this. This is basically just some extra information about the uniform. This part right here, the uniform class, is the most important one from it. Because like I was saying earlier, every single uniform has to have a unit associated with it to apply the uniforms. So this uniform class is going to be whatever unit it belongs to. Unit in this case being like a placeable like person you can put in Zeus and everything like that. So we're going to change this from just an X to dart. Okay, go ahead and delete that comment now. And that's the uniform done for this part at least. Alright, this is future dart once again. One more final thing to change is just to actually change this from item info to uniform item, and then copying that and replacing this item info spot here. That's another kind of issue on my part. Make that quick little change. I'm going to be putting this before you actually start packing and everything, so you won't have to worry about repacking the mod or anything like that. Next, we're going to be moving on to the CFG vehicle section, where we're going to be defining our unit. And same premise, you just come right on down here, copy this over, paste this, tab that in so it looks all nice. Okay. And I'm changing this to not fart, we're going to change it to dart, and we're going to change this to just dart. Now, same premise as uniform class, but instead of doing the name of the unit, we're going to do the uniform that goes with it. So there we are. And now here is where we apply the textures for it. Now, some of these, or one of these, is relatively straightforward with what it is. Undersuit CO. That's going to be the texture underneath your armor for like the black kind of suit. Then there's this Camo 1 and Camo 2. This is because the LS has split their armors into two different parts. The upper half with the chest and the arms, and then the lower half, which is like your waist and your legs. This Camo 1 is the upper half, Camo 2 is the lower half. So you can just remember it as its upper part first, then the lower, and then the undersuit. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to copy this uniform upper part. We're going to paste that there. Take this WP armor test, put that right there. We can just copy this, paste it here, and change this from upper to lower. So there we are. And now that is our unit set. That's it. It's really not too difficult. We have display name, so it's just looks different in the editor, so it's easier to get. We have the uniform shared with it, and we've applied our textures. So now the only thing left is to basically tell Arma what all is included in our mod. And we can do that in this units and weapons section. So for the units, that's going to be everything that you define in the CFG vehicles class. So we can just copy this, put it in quotes, and there's that. Okay? And then for weapons, we're going to be doing the exact same thing. Copy this, and then we're going to be putting a comma because there is another item that follows it. Okay, and then a new line, and bam. And now we're not going to put a comma because it's the last item in the list. So there we are. That is the whole kind of config process set up. We have our helmet set up with our textures. We have our uniform that's linked to our unit, and then the unit is applying the textures. And now we have them in our CFG patches. Now Arma will know they exist, and they'll show up in Zeus and all that stuff there. You can do, like if you really want to, you can do some kind of fancy stuff where you have like your own category in like Eden. So like you could have like your customs, and it could be like all of the different units and stuff there. I'm not going to get into that. That's kind of its own thing. Okay. But now we're going to be going back to, you can actually go ahead and close Substance for this. Make sure you save it. Okay. And now we're going to be going back to the Arma 3 tools. And now we're going to be selecting this add-on builder here. Okay, it's going to open this up. You can see this from my previous attempts. Change this to Wolfpack Armor Test. And same thing, putting that to that. Okay, you can also just go ahead and select these 3 dots. I'm not going to do it just because it reveals my full name and everything, but you can just click that and then just move to wherever you have this folder. Okay, and then for the destination directory or file name, PU extension, just ignore all that. Just copy paste this, add an add-ons at the end. And now, since it didn't detect our prefix name, we're going to go to options and we're going to put it right there. It's already there because I ended up, this is my second take of this. So just armor test. There you go. And click OK. And now we're going to go ahead and hit pack. Okay, you can go ahead and see it says build successful. Always glad to hear it. If you end up getting like an error, like a missing semicolon, it'll go ahead and tell you there. Not every single error is caught by it though. Some errors will only show up once you try and launch the game. If you're still having issues with stuff, you can always just reach out to me and I'll try and help you along with it there. You can also go to the LS Discord or the Arma 3 Discord itself. There's always people happy to help as well. But we can go ahead and close this now. Go ahead and close this. And now we can go ahead and open up Arma. There's going to be a thing about a missing or corrupted mod. Just ignore that. It's again from a second take. Okay. Once it decides to load all my mods, go ahead. Oh, never mind. It's just not even showing up. Yeah. Go ahead and click this plus local mod button. I'm going to go to, actually that's my documents. So we're going to go to here, games, Steam Apps, comment, go to wherever your Arma 3 folder is, or wherever you have the mod, I mean. I have just mine in a folder called local mods, Wolfpack Armor Test, and select folder. And there we are. Your Armor Test was loaded, or installed. You hit load mod, that sets it up. You can see the author is you. That's because all this stuff is set up right here in this mod.cpp file. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and launch it, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, and then here we are in game. This is actually the next day because I kept running into an issue with the mod. Finally figured it out, and it was a really stupid error, but did finally get it fixed. It will already be fixed for you guys. The error was that, for this here, this should be the phase 1 unit rather than the phase 2. This will be fixed for you guys so you don't have to worry about that. But that took me several hours to figure out. I don't know what's bugged with the phase 2 version of the trooper, but don't use it. Just use the phase 1. But here we are, just back in the Ace Arsenal mission. If you have Ace loaded, it'll be in the tutorials. There'll be like Virtual Arsenal, which is the Bohemia Arsenal, and then there's the Ace Arsenal, which is this one here. Basically just a simple, super simple mission, just puts in the arsenal as soon as you load in. But if we go ahead, type in Dart here, we can see the engineer helmet now. And now we can go ahead and see our armor as well. Ignore that the arm is not done on this one. That is just in Substance Painter. That's not an issue with the texture or anything like that. That is simply when I was making this part, it didn't copy over for some reason. Not an issue with the mod or anything like that. But that is as quick as I can make it tutorial on how to take textures from Substance Painter and put them into Arma. Go ahead and try this out. You can see all these guys with the helmets and everything and stuff like that. It's all working fine. Okay. And there you go. There is that for you. See that nice armor. Again, if you have any issues, just reach out to me. I will try and help you as much as I can. If it's not something that I'm either knowledgeable enough to know how to help you or anything like that, try putting it in either like the Legion Studios Discord or the Arma 3 Discord itself. They're able to help people really easily. I can include links to those as in the description as well, make it easy for you guys. But there we are. That's going to go ahead and conclude this tutorial.